Blood trickled down from Chloe Martinez's knee as she lay sprawled on the asphalt parking lot, textbooks scattered like fallen leaves around her small frame. Tyler Hendricks stood above her, his pristine white Nike sneakers now stained, a triumphant smirk plastered across his face. "Welcome to the real world, cop's daughter," he sneered, while Madison Blake captured every humiliating second on her iPhone. "Your mommy can't save you here." But they had no idea that Chloe had sent a coded text message 10 minutes earlier. They didn't know about the hidden body cam recording everything from inside her backpack. And they certainly didn't realize that in exactly 15 minutes, this judge's son would understand the true meaning of messing with a 20-year veteran police officer's family. 6 weeks earlier, Chloe Martinez had walked through the pristine halls of Westfield High School for the first time, clutching her class schedule with sweaty palms. The suburban Colorado school was a far cry from the rough inner-city schools she'd attended in Denver before her mother's transfer to this wealthy district. Marble floors gleamed under expensive lighting, and students carried designer backpacks worth more than some families' monthly rent. At 16, Chloe had inherited her mother's sharp instincts and quiet strength, but she'd also learned to make herself invisible. In her previous schools, being the daughter of Officer Sarah Martinez had meant constant scrutiny from classmates who either feared her or wanted to use her family connections. Here, she hoped for a fresh start. She found an empty table in the corner of the cafeteria during lunch, positioning herself with her back against the wall, where she could observe all the exits. Old habits from growing up in a cop's household. As she pulled out her turkey sandwich, she noticed the intricate social hierarchy playing out around her. At the center table sat Tyler Hendricks, the Golden Boy quarterback, whose father was Judge Marcus Hendricks, one of the most powerful men in the county. Tyler commanded attention effortlessly, his sandy blonde hair perfectly styled, his Letterman jacket worn like armor. Beside him sat Madison Blake, head cheerleader and daughter of City Council President Rebecca Blake. Madison's auburn hair cascaded in perfect waves as she gestured animatedly, her designer purse probably costing more than Chloe's entire wardrobe. Chloe pulled out her phone, discreetly opening an app that looked like a normal music player, but was actually Safe Record Pro, a professional-grade recording application with end-to-end encryption and legal timestamp functionality. Her mother had insisted she install it after some incidents at her previous school. The app helped victims of harassment collect legally admissible evidence with court-accepted quality. "You're new," the voice made Chloe look up to find a petite girl with thick-rimmed glasses and an uncertain smile. "I'm Jenny Park. You look lost." "Chloe Martinez. And yeah, still figuring everything out." Jenny's expression shifted slightly when she heard the last name. "Martinez? As in Officer Martinez? The one who arrested the mayor's nephew last month for that DUI?" Chloe's stomach sank. "That's my mom." "Holy cow," Jenny whispered, glancing nervously toward Tyler's table. "You might want to keep that quiet. Tyler's crew doesn't like law enforcement families much." But it was too late. Tyler had noticed their conversation and was already making his way over, flanked by Madison and 2 other football players. His approach was casual, but Chloe recognized the predatory grace of someone accustomed to getting their way. "Well, well," Tyler said, sliding uninvited into the seat across from her. "Fresh meat. I'm Tyler Hendricks. My dad runs the courthouse, so you might say I run this school." His blue eyes swept over her dismissively. "You picked an interesting spot. This corner's usually reserved for the special cases." Madison giggled, a sound like breaking glass. "Tyler means the weirdos and rejects. Speaking of which, what's your story, new girl?" Chloe maintained steady eye contact, her mother's training kicking in. Never show fear to a predator. Just trying to eat lunch and mind my own business. Business? Tyler leaned back, amused. What kind of business could someone like you possibly have here? The kind that doesn't involve you, Chloe replied quietly. The temperature at the table seemed to drop 10 degrees. Tyler's companions exchanged glances, clearly unused to anyone speaking to their leader with anything less than reverence. Interesting, Tyler said slowly. Most people around here understand how things work. There's a hierarchy, a natural order. You seem confused about where you fit. Chloe stood, gathering her things with deliberate calm. I fit wherever I choose to fit. As she walked away, she heard Madison's stage whisper, "Did she just dismiss Tyler Hendricks? Who does this girl think she is?" The answer to that question would become clear soon enough. The next few days brought a systematic campaign of harassment that started subtly but escalated quickly. Anonymous Instagram accounts appeared, posting doctored photos of Chloe with unflattering captions. Someone had clearly done their research because the posts specifically targeted her family's law enforcement background, calling her a snitch and worse. During third-period chemistry, Chloe discovered her backpack soaked with sticky soda, her laptop likely ruined. Instead of the expected tears or angry outburst, she calmly documented the damage with her phone's camera, noting the timestamp and taking pictures of the suspicious liquid trails leading back to Tyler's usual route. Her unusually composed reaction didn't go unnoticed. "Most kids would be crying by now," observed Marcus Webb, a quiet student who sat nearby. "You're handling this differently." Chloe shrugged, continuing to photograph the evidence. Getting emotional doesn't solve problems. Documentation does. She spoke with the measured tone of someone much older, someone who'd learned that evidence trumped emotion in every situation that mattered. That afternoon, Tyler cornered her near the gymnasium, his usual entourage providing backup. "You think you're smart, don't you?" he said, stepping into her personal space. "Taking pictures? Making notes? What exactly do you plan to do with that?" "Whatever needs to be done," Chloe replied, not backing down despite the obvious size difference. "Let me explain something," Tyler continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "My father owns this town. One word from him and your mom's transfer request to somewhere very far away gets approved real quick. Accidents happen to cops who don't play ball." For just a moment, something flickered in Chloe's eyes. Not fear, but calculation. "Are you threatening a police officer? I'm stating facts about how the world works." Chloe pulled out her phone, and Tyler noticed she wasn't opening the camera app. Instead, she tapped what looked like a messaging application and typed a quick series of numbers and letters that looked suspiciously like police codes. "What's that?" Madison demanded. "Nothing important," Chloe said, slipping the phone back into her pocket. "Just letting someone know about our conversation." The following week brought escalation. During PE class, Tyler accidentally shoved Chloe while passing her in the hallway, sending her sprawling. But instead of falling helplessly, she executed what looked like a defensive role that minimized impact and had her back on her feet in seconds. "Holy cow," Jenny whispered to another student. "Did you see how she moved? That wasn't normal." Tyler had noticed too. His eyes narrowed as he watched Chloe dust herself off with the controlled movements of someone who'd been trained in self-defense, or worse. "Interesting reflexes," he commented. "Where'd you learn to fall like that?" "You pick things up when your mom's a cop," Chloe replied carefully. But Tyler was beginning to suspect there was more to Chloe Martinez than met the eye. The harassment campaign intensified. Fake social media accounts multiplied, spreading increasingly vicious rumors about Chloe and her family. Someone started a group chat called Cop Family Watch, where students were encouraged to document and mock everything she did. Through it all, Chloe maintained her careful documentation. Every screenshot was saved, every incident was recorded with precise timestamps, and every threat was preserved with forensic attention to detail. Principal Stevens called her into his office after a particularly nasty round of online harassment went viral. "Miss Martinez," he began, clearly uncomfortable, "I understand you've been having some adjustment difficulties." "I've been experiencing systematic harassment and cyberbullying," Chloe corrected, "and I have extensive documentation of every incident." Stevens shifted in his chair. "Now, I'm sure it's not that serious. Sometimes kids just need time to work things out among themselves." Chloe placed a thick folder on his desk. 57 documented incidents in 3 weeks. Screenshots, timestamps, witness statements, and audio recordings. Would you like me to go through them chronologically or by severity? The principal's face paled as he flipped through the evidence. "Where did you learn to compile information like this?" "You pick things up when your family works in law enforcement," she replied evenly. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Stevens closed the folder quickly. "I'll need to discuss this with the appropriate parties." "Which parties would those be?" Chloe asked. "Because if you're referring to Judge Hendricks and City Council President Blake, I should mention that attempting to cover up harassment and discrimination at a public school receiving federal funding violates several statutes that carry significant penalties." The principal stared at her, suddenly realizing he wasn't dealing with a typical 16-year-old. That afternoon, Tyler's approach changed from harassment to something more dangerous. He found Chloe leaving her final class and walked alongside her toward the parking lot. "You think you're clever with your little evidence collection," he said conversationally, "but you're missing the bigger picture." "Which is?" "Power trumps paperwork every time. My dad doesn't just run the courthouse, he owns half the lawyers in this county. Your mom's just a cop. Middle management at best." They had reached the edge of the parking lot now, away from the main building where fewer people could see them. "Here's how this works," Tyler continued, his voice hardening. "You transfer schools, or things get much worse for your family. My dad's already making calls about your mom's performance reviews." Chloe stopped walking and turned to face him fully. For the first time since arriving at Westfield High, she smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Tyler," she said quietly, "you have no idea who you're messing with." Something in her tone made him step back slightly, but his pride wouldn't let him retreat completely. "We'll see about that," he snarled. As they faced off in the parking lot, neither of them noticed the black sedan that had been circling the school grounds for the past 10 minutes, or the figure in the driver's seat speaking into a radio with military precision. The real confrontation was still minutes away, but the pieces were already in motion. Chloe reached into her backpack, not for a weapon or phone, but for something that looked like an ordinary pen. She clicked it once, and a small red light began blinking. Tyler didn't notice, too focused on maintaining his intimidating posture. "Last chance," he said. "Walk away from this school and never come back." "Counteroffer," Chloe replied calmly. "You and Madison apologize publicly for the harassment, make restitution for the damaged property, and agree to leave me alone for the remainder of the school year." Tyler laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the surrounding cars. "Or what? Or you find out what happens when you mess with a cop's family." Madison appeared from behind a row of cars, flanked by 2 more students from their circle. They had planned this confrontation, chosen the location carefully. Away from the main building, minimal witnesses, perfect for sending the kind of message that would ensure Chloe's quick departure from their school. "Time to learn your place," Madison said, pulling out her phone to record. "This is going to go viral." What none of them realized was that Chloe had been expecting this exact scenario. The past 3 weeks hadn't just been about enduring harassment. They'd been about gathering evidence and setting up the perfect trap. The showdown was about to begin, and Tyler Hendricks was about to discover that some families don't back down from a fight. They end it. As Tyler stepped closer, his fists clenched, the sound of approaching sirens began to filter through the afternoon air. At first, it was barely audible over the noise of students heading to their cars, but it grew steadily louder. "You hear that?" Chloe asked conversationally, as if discussing the weather. Tyler paused, uncertainty flickering across his face for the first time. "Hear what?" The black sedan that had been circling the school suddenly pulled into the parking lot with purpose, followed by 2 patrol cars with lights flashing, but sirens now silent. From the lead vehicle stepped Officer Sarah Martinez, 42 years old, and every inch the veteran law enforcement professional she was. "Tyler Hendricks," she called out, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of someone who'd spent 20 years dealing with people who thought they were above the law. "Step away from my daughter." Tyler's face went white as he realized the magnitude of his mistake. "This is a school matter. You have no jurisdiction here." Officer Martinez approached with measured steps, her hand resting casually on her radio. "Actually, threatening and assaulting a minor gives me all the jurisdiction I need. Plus, harassment across state lines via social media makes this a federal matter." Madison lowered her phone, suddenly understanding that their carefully planned intimidation session had become something far more serious. "We weren't doing anything illegal." "Really?" Sarah Martinez pulled out her own phone, displaying a live feed from what was clearly a hidden camera. "Because I've been watching everything for the past 15 minutes. The threats, the intimidation, and now the assault." Chloe stood up slowly, brushing dirt from her clothes with the same calm demeanor she'd maintained throughout weeks of harassment. The pen device in her hand was still blinking its tiny red light. "Body cam," she explained to Tyler's shocked expression. "Military grade. Everything you've said and done has been recorded and transmitted in real time." "That's impossible," Tyler sputtered. "You're just a kid." Sarah Martinez smiled grimly. "My daughter isn't just a kid, son. She's been helping with undercover operations since she was 14. Did you really think a family of cops wouldn't be prepared for small-town bullies?" The truth hit Tyler like a physical blow. Chloe hadn't been a random target they could intimidate into submission. She'd been bait in a carefully orchestrated operation designed to expose the corruption that had protected students like him for years. "You set us up," Madison whispered, her usual confidence evaporating. "You set yourselves up," Chloe replied. "I just gave you enough rope." 2 more officers approached from different angles, effectively surrounding the group. Tyler looked around desperately, probably for the first time in his life realizing that his father's influence couldn't protect him from the consequences of his actions. "This is harassment," he tried one last time. "My father will have your badges for this." "Your father is currently in federal custody," Officer Martinez informed him calmly. "Turns out, when you investigate one corrupt family, you often find connections to others. Judge Hendricks has been taking bribes and fixing cases for 3 years. The FBI has been building a case against him for months." Tyler's knees nearly buckled. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Sarah pulled out an official-looking document. "This is a warrant for your arrest on charges of assault, harassment, cyberbullying, and conspiracy to intimidate a witness in a federal investigation." The last part hit like a bombshell. Madison grabbed Tyler's arm. "What witness? What investigation?" Chloe finally spoke up, her voice carrying a new authority that none of them had heard before. "Did you really think my transfer to this school was random? Did you think it was coincidence that Officer Martinez was assigned to this district right before several high-profile cases involving judicial corruption?" The pieces began falling into place for Tyler and Madison. The systematic documentation, the professional-grade recording equipment, the way Chloe had deliberately provoked them into escalating their harassment into criminal behavior. "You're undercover," Tyler breathed. "Was undercover," Chloe corrected. Mission accomplished. As the officers moved to make arrests, students who had gathered to watch the confrontation began pulling out their phones. The story was already spreading across social media, but this time it wasn't harassment content. It was justice being served in real time. "Tyler Hendricks, you're under arrest," Officer Martinez announced, producing handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As Tyler was led away in handcuffs, he looked back at Chloe with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "This isn't over." "Actually," she replied with that same calm smile, "it is." Madison was arrested moments later, her carefully curated social media presence about to become evidence in a criminal trial. The other students who had participated in the harassment campaign would face charges as well, their futures suddenly much less certain than they'd imagined that morning. Principal Stevens emerged from the school building, his face pale as he watched his star students being loaded into police cars. Officer Martinez approached him with another official document. "Warrant to search school records," she explained, "specifically communications between school administration and certain prominent families regarding the suppression of harassment reports." Stevens looked like he might faint. "I was just following district policy." "The district policy that's been influenced by Judge Hendricks and City Council President Blake for the past 5 years? That policy is about to change dramatically." Over the following weeks, the story exploded beyond the local community. Video footage from Chloe's hidden cameras showed the systematic harassment she'd endured. But more importantly, it revealed the calculated way she'd documented everything and led her tormentors into exposing themselves completely. Tyler and Madison were charged as adults due to the severity and premeditated nature of their crimes. Judge Hendricks found himself facing federal corruption charges that would send him to prison for 15 years. City Council President Blake was arrested for conspiracy and abuse of power. The school district underwent a complete overhaul. Principal Stevens resigned in disgrace, and new policies were implemented to protect students from harassment and ensure that reports were taken seriously regardless of the families involved. For Chloe, the mission was complete, but her story was far from over. 3 months later, Tyler Hendricks sat in juvenile detention, his football scholarship to State University revoked, his future permanently altered. Madison Blake was serving community service and attending court-ordered therapy, her social media accounts monitored by probation officers. The school that had once celebrated their privilege now used their mugshots in presentations about the consequences of bullying. On her last day at Westfield High, Chloe found an envelope taped inside her locker. No name, no postmark, just expensive paper and elegant handwriting. Inside was a single sentence. "You did excellent work here. There are others like you working in different schools. When you're ready for the next assignment, call this number." As she walked through the parking lot where everything had culminated, Chloe noticed a figure watching from across the street. Tall, professional, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. When their eyes met, the figure raised a hand in what might have been acknowledgement or warning, then disappeared around the corner. For the first time since arriving at Westfield High, Chloe felt something she hadn't expected: sadness. Not for Tyler or Madison or the system they'd represented, but for the girl she'd had to pretend to be. The scared, isolated transfer student had been a performance, but sometimes the loneliness had felt real. Her phone buzzed with an encrypted message. Phase 1 complete. Multiple targets identified. Initiate Phase 2. Chloe stared at the text for a long moment, then looked up at the security camera that had recorded so much of her story. She gave it a slight nod, though whether in acknowledgement or farewell was impossible to tell. As she walked away from Westfield High for the final time, backpack slung over her shoulder and evidence of her success trailing behind her in the form of real change, Chloe Martinez spoke quietly into her phone. "This is Agent Martinez reporting mission complete. Ready for reassignment. And remember, the best undercover work happens when the targets never realize they're being investigated until it's too late." The camera pulled back to show her walking toward a waiting black sedan, just another 16-year-old girl heading home from school. But those who knew how to look would notice the way she moved, the way she observed her surroundings, and the small device clipped to her backpack that was still recording everything. Because sometimes justice doesn't wait for graduation. Sometimes it comes in the form of a cop's daughter who knows that the best way to catch bullies is to let them think they're winning, right up until the moment they realize they never had a chance. It arrives quietly, methodically, building cases with the patience of someone raised in a household where evidence matters more than emotion. It wears the face of a 16-year-old transfer student, carries recording devices disguised as school supplies, and speaks in police codes when no one is listening. Justice doesn't always announce itself with sirens and flashing lights. Sometimes it simply documents everything, waits for the perfect moment, and then strikes with the precision of a 20-year veteran who taught her daughter that the law protects those who know how to use it properly.